When people are arrested, they understandably tend to panic. One of the first choices to make if somebody is arrested is whether or not to bail out. The process of bail comes to us from a history of jails wanting to make sure that someone shows up for their case. And unless you've been arrested before, you don't know how the bail process works. It's actually pretty simple. I'm going to use an example of $100,000 just for the sake of simplicity. If somebody gets arrested for a crime and they're in jail, the jail wants to make sure that they show up for their court case, or the court wants to make sure that they show up for their court case. So the jail says to the defendant, hey, if you give me $100,000, then I'll let you out. If you go to all your court cases and your court case ends and the bail bond gets exonerated, then you can have your money back. That way, the court ensures that a defendant shows up and a defendant gets out of jail. Because most people don't have $100,000 cash sitting around, they would go to a bail bond agency. And a bail bond agency puts up the money for you to the jail. But whereas if you can pay the money yourself, you get it all back at the end of the case. With a bail bond agency, they will charge you a certain percentage. So 10%, 8%, sometimes they'll go as low as 5%, but you never get that money back. So somebody who's in jail and who has a bail of $100,000, they or their family could go to a bail bond company, and the bail bond company would say, okay, you don't have $100,000, so you pay us $10,000. Sometimes they'll allow you to make payments, and we will put up the money for you, and you can get out of jail, or you could get your loved one out of jail. So when you sign up with a bail bond company, you're signing a contract, and the contract is binding. So if the prosecution decides never to press charges 2 days later, a day later, because you've signed the contract with the bail bond company, you won't get that money back. The contract is to get the defendant out of jail at that moment. And once the bail bond company does that, they've fulfilled their end of the contract. A lot of times bail companies all use the same rates. So really the only difference in bail bond companies is the quality of service and sometimes how close they work with an attorney. One thing that most people don't know is that if you have a private attorney, generally speaking, bail bond companies will give you a reduced rate. So if you're thinking about the bail process, you should probably consult with an attorney first. And believe it or not, sometimes it's in a defendant's best interest to not make bail. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. But an attorney will be able to critically evaluate the decision of whether or not it's truly in a defendant's interest to stay in jail or to make bail. So that's why consulting with an attorney prior to bail, not only will it give you a reduced rate, but you want to make sure that you're making the right decision in deciding whether or not to bail out of jail. And that's about it for the bail process. It's generally a relatively simple process. It's an agreement between either a defendant or family members to get a defendant out of jail while they're awaiting charges. Again, I would highly suggest to speak with an attorney prior to the bail process. I wish you the best of luck.